next up, I'm very happy that we have a speaker from HubSpot here as well. This is also such a tech company we try to approach for a longer time now to get a speaker from them, because I think it's absolutely fascinating what HubSpot does and what kind of product they have here. And now we will talk about the data-driven redesign of the HubSpot sign-up funnel, which fits quite well to the talk from Robert, what you do with the data. And yeah, I'm very happy to welcome Anne Tempelmeier on stage. An applause for Anne. So thank you very much for being with us, Anne. Here is your clicker. So Anne has an interesting background. She studied psychology.
Neuroscience.
Neuroscience.
Yeah.
Sorry. And she did that also in Cologne. This is all nice for me from Cologne to say that. But then you moved to Berlin. Is that right?
To Dublin, actually.
Okay.
Yeah, so 4 years in Dublin and now back to Berlin.
Yes.
Yeah, parts of my master's was here in Cologne, so felt a bit like coming home to student times yesterday.
That's good. That's nice to hear. So applause again for Anne, and the stage is yours.
Yeah. Hi everyone, my name is Anne. I'm a UX designer at HubSpot, and as the introduction already said, today I'll be talking about a project that I've been working on over the last year with my team, which is a redesign of our sign-up funnel. A bit about me, as we said, I actually did study neuroscience, and after I finished that, I did work well in medical research. I realized quickly after that standing in a lab by myself the whole day wasn't exactly how I envisioned the rest of my life to be, so I aimed to do a career change, did some certificates in UX, did a course in human-computer interaction at Georgia Tech University, and was lucky to join HubSpot in 2017 in our Dublin office, actually. Since beginning of last year, I moved over to a Berlin office, and I'm the UX designer on our growth acquisition team. So for those of you that don't know HubSpot, HubSpot is an all-in-one CRM platform. We offer sales, service marketing, CMS tools, and we also have a learning platform called HubSpot Academy. Parts of our offering, we have some premium tools, but parts of our HubSpot's offering is actually offered in a freemium model. So you can get the full set of free tools, the free CRM platform, with signing up on our website here, and it's a completely free offering. So after you click there, you get the standard form. We ask for your first name, last name, email address, the industry that you work on, for job role, etc. So when we looked at this last year, it hadn't really been touched quite a while. It was just something that was working well. There weren't like any major feedback from leadership that our numbers weren't right. But we just thought, hey, we literally didn't improve this for quite a while. So my team was tasked with looking at this flow and giving it some UX love. So as you can see here, that was our flow, how it looked like last year. What we started with, so you can see this lovely gradient on the left-hand side, which was quite trendy for a while. You could see it everywhere. We had some content on the left-hand side, which wasn't quite specific. I mean, you can sign up for different parts of our tools as well, for our e-learning platform, but the content wasn't really targeted towards that. And then we had the standard approach, as you can see here, just the standard form, several questions per page. So as I said last year, around April, May, we set out to give this flow some UX love, and we took on the challenge to redesign this flow. So when we start a project like this, what my team would do is that we look at both quantitative and qualitative data. So to start with, we did a deep dive into our usage data. It's actually funny that Amplitude is here because we're a heavy Amplitude user. So we looked at data such as our conversion rate of the flow, CVR, where do people drop off, at what stage of the sign up, how long do people take to sign up, the invite rate, so as the first HubSpot user you sign up, And then later on, you can add more users. You can invite your colleagues to your HubSpot account as well, which is how we calculate the invite rate. And then classic things like our software activation. So after you sign up, do you actually go on using our software, or do you just like drop off immediately? And as I said, you sign up for a freemium model. So we also look at the monetization rate of those users that signed up for a freemium tool and then move on to upgrade to one of our premium offerings. So as I said, we look there, and as leadership already had noticed, there wasn't anything majorly wrong with it. There were a few things where we thought we could make an improvement, which was the email verification step. We saw quite some drop off there. And the step where we asked for your company domain. So we noted that, we said there is some smaller points of friction, and we kept that in mind. Then there was also the time to sign up, which we thought was all right, but we kept that in mind, and we said maybe we can even make it faster. We can bring people faster inside the product. On the other hand, we look at qualitative data, and what we did there is that we launched an exit survey, which is what we do quite often. So you are within our sign up, and at one stage you decide to drop off. And as soon as you move your cursor towards closing the tab, the software that we use for that realizes that, and it pops up the survey, and we can ask you several questions on why you're dropping off. So what we did last year to start off with, we asked you, hey, you're not signing up today. Can you let us know why? And on the one hand, as you can see here, we were gathering really important information that we could then pass to our marketing team that takes care of our website. So for example, a lot of users were saying, hey, I'm actually dropping off because I need pricing information. What is this? Is this really free? Like, am I signing up? Do I need my credit card? So we were passing that information onto the marketing team that then was tackling that on the website. What was important for our project here is that we usually have a pool of HubSpot users that are interested in participating in our research. But for this research, we didn't want to use those users because they were super familiar. They were like partly power HubSpot users. They really know the platform. They really know what they were signing up for. And they also went through the sign up at some stage in the past. So for this user research, we really wanted to find net new users that had a real intent of signing up for CRM, but then didn't do it. So we added a second question here. We, at the time, didn't really know. We were like, would people really do this? If you sign up for HubSpot, you drop off, and then we asked you, hey, do you want to participate in a research study? Actually, we had hundreds of signups. Maybe we thought, okay, because it's paid, so that was, I think, a good argument for a lot of people. But yeah, we gathered a lot of participants with the survey, and we ran user testing, actually in form of an unmoderated study. And it was a classic usability test, so we gave users the task. You want to sign up for a HubSpot account, you come to the website, and then they went all the way through, and we recorded that, and they had to answer some questions. And one question that we asked those users after they had gone through the sign-up was, what are the first 3 words that come into your mind to describe the experience you just went through? And we were asking that question. Our UX research team was helping me with that, and they were recommending that we should ask this question to really capture the emotions and not just, yes, were they able to do it? It's pretty straightforward. We already saw in the data that users are able to do it. So we really wanted to find out what's wrong with this flow. So we were asking these questions to really dig deep and see what users actually think about our flow. And yeah, we were a bit sad, but most of the answers were like, well, it's easy, it's basic. There were some nice things like it's fast and quick and it's efficient. Especially as a German, I love the efficient part. But in general, it was like, it's pleasant enough. So one user said, well, what did I expect? It just did its job. What should I expect of a sign-up? So to sum it up, meh. It wasn't, there were zero emotions. They were like, it does its job. So let's actually take a step back, which is what we did as a team as well at that stage. So, as I said, I studied neuroscience, so I'm really into those things. As you can see here, you might be familiar with Abraham Maslow's hierarchy of needs, which is a theory that explains motivation. So it argues that first you have to fulfill your basic needs, such as housing, you need shelter, you need food. And only if you have that, you can move on to the next hierarchy point, which is safety need, and so on. Then followed by love and esteem, and then actually things like self-actualization, like problem solving, following a moral code, or creativity, for example. But it's important that those things have to be done in order. And there is a really interesting book, if you're interested in this topic, which is called Designing for Emotion by Aaron Walter. It's also available as an ebook online if anybody's interested in this topic. And he actually took Maslow's hierarchy and created this hierarchy of user needs. And he said, what are the needs that need to be fulfilled in order on a user that a user has to a user interface? So we start with functional. And I mean, basic, if I download an app from the App Store with one specific goal, I want this app to do this one goal. There's an example last year during lockdown, I got really into hiking. I thought I need to get out, need to do something. And I downloaded this app that was showing me different hikes, but I installed it, and the most basic thing that I wanted to do, which is look at the map and look at the hikes, wasn't working. It was so poorly done that the basic thing I wanted to do with this app wasn't working. So I immediately uninstalled it. The next thing is, of course, user interface needs to be reliable. And then, of course, we all know it needs to be usable as well. So it needs to be easy to learn. A user needs to be quickly able to do the task without much effort. And historically, it would stop there around usability. Yes, if you reach usability, you're the king. It's really working. But Aaron Walter has this he makes this really good point. It's like he's saying if you stop at usability as a need to a user interface, it's like as if you would go to a Michelin star restaurant and the food is simply edible. There's no really enjoyable part to it. So what we did there is that we took all of our data and we say, hey, let's check it against these hierarchy of user needs. So looking at our data, our sign-up flow was functional. It was also reliable. It was usable. Actually, none of our users couldn't fulfill the task of signing up for a HubSpot account. But as you can see, we were heavily missing out on the top of the user needs pyramid, which is being pleasurable, creating a delightful experience. So what is user delight? The Nielsen Norman Group defines it as any positive emotional effect that a user may have when interacting with an interface. And that might not always be expressed immediately or you see it immediately, but it can influence behaviors and actions and opinions about your product later on. And that's important to keep in mind. I will come back to that at the end of the presentation. So with all that data, we ran a design sprint workshop with the entire team. And we quickly looking at the data, we very quickly knew, okay, one of our main goals with this redesign that we were launching, we wanted to create a delightful experience throughout the whole sign-up process. We also wanted to reassure users. As I said, we had found out through the exit surveys that users were like, what is this? Is it really free? Do I need a credit card? Is it a trial? So we really wanted to reassure users that it was free and that it was the right solution for them. What we found from the quantitative data, as I said, we wanted to reduce the friction on the company step and the email verification step. And one of our goals was also to reduce the time to sign up. So this is actually the very first prototype that we developed after this workshop. As you can see here, it's pretty basic. We didn't really know what type of content we wanted, so we just had a placeholder. But what we went with was this friendly conversational tone, almost as if somebody's talking to you. And here on the left-hand side, you can see the biggest change actually that we did, the biggest concept change was that we had just one question per screen compared to like, you know, first name, last name, email, industry, all on one step. And you might think now, wait, didn't she just tell us one of their goals was to reduce the time to sign up? Why would you take out all the steps and almost double, which is actually what we did, that this creating just one question per screen more than doubled the amount of steps a user had to go through. But doing some research, my team's hypothesis was here that if we reduce the cognitive load on this page, like by not throwing everything on you at the same time, that we actually create this kind of flow that a user can go through. And even though our hypothesis was that even though we would more than double the amount of screens, we would actually reduce still the time to sign up because of the reduced cognitive load. So again, with this experience, we ran the same identical research, again with a new set of users, of course, and we again asked them the same question: what are the first 3 words that come into your mind? And to our happiness, this time it looked much different. We still weren't missing out on those words. I didn't add them here for visibility, but we still had words like it's quick, it's efficient, so we weren't missing out on that. But on top of that, I mean, you see all the emotions that all of a sudden came up. People were saying it's trustworthy, it's friendly, it's really human, it's welcoming. So we had this like huge sad range of emotions. So we at this stage thought, okay, we're going in the right direction with this approach. And when we asked users why did they choose those words, which was also a task, they had to choose those words and then also explain to us why they chose those words. And one user said, I think it's friendly because it guides you through in a very conversational and helpful way. It was very welcoming in a non-condescending, non-robotic way. And then I found this really funny. I don't give out the friendly tag very much, so it certainly did a great job. And another user said it was very warm. And I say that because the language that was chosen was very day-to-day, very friendly. And now it gets interesting. This user was saying it's almost like as if you were talking to your friend or your coworker that was like guiding you through the process. So there we were like, okay, that's actually reassuring users if they have this more conversational style while they go through instead of just being presented with a form, give us your first name, last name, email, and move on. So if we look at a bit of I said, my neuroscience background comes in a bit. If we look at the science behind those emotions, oxytocin is actually an important player when it comes to creating those emotions. So it's a powerful hormone that acts as a neurotransmitter in the brain. And when it's released, you're feeling calm, motivated, you have a sense of trust, you feel loyal, you feel happy and comfortable. And in real life, this would be, for example, released and egged in your brain when you hug your loved one, when you kiss someone. It's also a super important hormone when it comes to parent-child bonding. So research has shown that it's not just in real life that this hormone can be released, but actually a user interface can create that hormone to be released and create those emotions. And one way to do that is by using faces, by using a persona. So as I said, we were still missing out on the content that we wanted to put on the right-hand side. So we thought, okay, if users were saying, let's take it all together. If users were saying, this is almost like you're talking to a colleague, they felt happy. Obviously, we were going somewhere in the direction of people like being very like motivated, trusting the sign-up process. So we actually found some HubSpotters to volunteer to take a photo shooting with us and have their pictures being used throughout the sign-up process. Those are real HubSpotters. It's also me on the top left. And what we were like, okay, let's quickly double check though if this is moving in the right direction or if this is weird. So we did a quick user test and turns out people found it weird. They were like, yeah, I see you asked for my email address, but who's that woman? Like, did you purchase that on Shutterstock or was it like for free somewhere? Like, who's that person? So we were like, okay, this is not good. So we actually did another test, but one of our engineers actually had the idea, why don't we tell users who those people are and where they work? So they're real HubSpotters. They actually volunteered to be in our flow. So we did another quick test, and this time we were actually, really hitting our goal. Users were like, oh, this is cool. This is almost as if I would call your sales hotline. And I have this feeling this person is talking to me. And it's really cool to see HubSpotters from different offices. We have our people from our Sydney office in there, people from our Columbia office. So it was really cool, and we got very positive feedback on that. So to sum up the changes that we had taken to launch this redesign experiment. So as I said, we had this one question per step approach, as if you were talking to someone. We had partly the HubSpotter faces. And one thing that we did is that we moved the verification to the end. If you remember, I said we saw that there was some drop-off on the verification step, and in our old design, the verification came directly after you gave us your name and email. And then the first thing we hit in your face, boom, please go to your email, click the link and come back. And that's a huge point of friction for users. They have to be really committed. They have to go out. And we thought our hypothesis was by moving it towards the end, we already provided some value to users. We already reassured them that they want to sign up, and they're probably more motivated to do it at the end than right at the beginning. We condensed our terms and conditions, obviously together with our legal team, to reduce the cognitive load. For the same reason, we replaced the step numbers with a visual progress bar. One reason for that was to reduce the cognitive load, but then obviously also with this new amount of steps that we had now, it would have said something like, hey, you had step 1 out of 12, which isn't very motivating, which didn't work anymore. So we just created this visual progress bar. We introduced a back button. Now that was an interesting one. We had found some research actually that was saying that if a user has a choice to go back, they make the decision easier because, it's nothing that you cannot change. It's like going to a shop, you can buy this t-shirt, but if you don't like it, you can return it tomorrow. So you can buy it much more easier. Same as ordering something from Zalando. You can just send it back, which makes the choice that you need to make much quicker and much easier, which is why we introduced that as well. We added messaging also to mobile. So before you would just go on a website on your phone, and there wouldn't be any messaging or any content there, just a pure form. And on top of those HubSpotter faces that I said that we included, we also included other meaningful content because we had a lot of steps to fill now, such as social proof, customer examples, and general explanations about HubSpot and the HubSpot software. One thing I should mention, we actually did run a pre-experiment, which was targeted around how can we decrease the time to sign up. And HubSpot has a database of companies and company information. So what we did here is that we were using that database. So for example, if I would go in the first step and type in my email, the system would immediately check back and pre-fill as much information for me as it can find from the database. So as in this case, for example, it would already give me 2 industries to choose from that it thinks I work in, and it would already pre-fill my company name. Now, we did a quick user test on that as well, and people found it a bit creepy. They were like, did you access my cookies, or did you steal some of my credit card information now as well? Where did you get that from? So we added this content. Our UX writer did an amazing job in creating, this content, saying where we got this information from and that we're not sure if it's right, but you can change it if you need to. So I mentioned that we ran this as a pre-experiment, so this was already live by the time we launched our main redesign experiment. And those were how the screens looked like. And on the right-hand side, you can also see our mobile screen. And for the experiment setup, pretty straightforward, classic A/B test. We had our control that would go through from the website CTA would go through the old UI, and then 50% of traffic would go through that redesign with all the changes that I just introduced. Now, we've all been waiting for the results. So our hypothesis was true. Even though we more than doubled the amount of steps, people were able to just flow through and finish it faster, which I thought was amazing. On mobile, we actually increased conversion rate by 11%. And here I should mention that we always work with significance in HubSpot. So when we launch an experiment, we would calculate roughly how much time we would need to see significant results. And our threshold there would be 95% significance. So all the data you see here are indicated below at what significance rate that was. As I said, mobile, we saw this great increase in conversion rate, but mobile isn't our main form of sign-up. It's still desktop, the main one. So when we looked at the overall conversion rate, we were a bit gutted. We saw no change in conversion rate. We were like, great, all this work for no change in conversion rate. But that's why I said, remember that quote, the definition of user delight, that it's something you sometimes not see immediately, but that has an effect later on. So we were like, okay, let's look at all of our other data later down the funnel. And there we saw wins. We actually saw an almost 4% increase in invite rate. So as I said, somebody signs up to HubSpot, invites their colleagues. So we saw an increase in that. It wasn't quite significant that yet, because we didn't have enough traffic of actual users inviting, but we were on our way there with 74%. Significant result on the right, which we are very happy about, which was the product activation. So we were like, this is great. We're just creating a delightful experience. And this actually has so much impact to the user that they later on are more motivated to use our software just by making it more delightful. And one of my personal highlights, also leadership, was very happy about that. We actually did see a 30% increase, which was significant, in monetization of those freemium accounts. So those users were obviously so happy with HubSpot in their first days that they moved on to purchase one of our premium solutions later on. So at that stage, we were like, okay, there's no negative impact on conversion rate, but we have all these other further downstream metrics that have this positive effect. So there's no harm in productizing this immediately, which is what we did literally the next day after we stopped the experiment. We moved 100% of traffic to the new experience. And what we do later on in HubSpot, as I said, it was quite unusual that we did all those changes in one big experiment, but because this sign-up hasn't been touched in such a long time, we didn't want to do everything step by step. But what we did afterwards, after we launched the big batch of redesign, we did some further optimization experiments. One experiment which we're actually working on right now, which is what we call Don't Break the Flow. As I said, we have this e-learning platform as well called HubSpot Academy. And with last year, when you sign up there, you say, hey, start this course, you would be brought out completely and you would not even see the connection anymore to the e-learning platform, or let's say here the growth-driven design course that you chose. So we actually created a mini version of our sign-up that can live directly in the page, so the user doesn't have to go out of context. As I said, looking promising, looked at our dashboards yesterday morning, but it's still in progress. As I said, we also wanted to improve the drop-off rate on the verification step. So especially for our mobile users, in research, we have found out when we talk to our users that they find it annoying that even on their mobile, they have to go out and then click a link to open a new browser. They said, if I get an email, it pops up from the top that has a code in it, that would be so much easier. So that's what we did for our mobile users, which also was great feedback and great success especially on our mobile sign-up with having a code instead of a link. Personalization is a big one. We run several experiments on that, but this is one of my favorite ones. As I said, our learning platform, you would usually be brought out and you would, as I said, you would see the sign-up experience that didn't quite make sense. That was just like, why am I signing up for a HubSpot account now? I was literally just Googling learn inbound marketing. Why am I signing up for a HubSpot account in software? Like, I didn't want to do that. So what we did here, next to, of course, that embedded version that we also have, we created this version where we were making the content on all the steps really targeted to that e-learning platform sign up. So we had some quotes from somebody that had used the e-learning platform, some companies that say we're talking about their employees using the platform. And we actually, our inbound professors that do those courses, they volunteered for us to have their headshots being used. So instead of somebody from sales, services, or marketing looking at you, smiling at you, you actually see the professors that you're already used to. And with that, we were happy after we launched that as an experiment. Again, same setup, A/B test. And we were able to achieve almost 70% in conversion rate, which was great. We also included some experiment around type aheads and the type of users would input their information. And as you can see on the left, that was how it looked before. We had like a specific set of asking the question which job role you work in. And we had a lot of users choosing other. Now, this could either be because they're lazy, and other is the easiest option that you can just click through to get to the end quick. But maybe it was also because they couldn't find or they couldn't identify with any of the limited choices we gave them. So we actually introduced a type ahead, we also tested that, which didn't have any negative impact. So we didn't have any drop off more on that page than usual. But we did increase the data accuracy of their jobs, which was actually a really funny thing to do, because we actually did this with the help of LinkedIn. So we literally went in manually. So we were like, how can we prove that we really increased the data accuracy? So we went in for, I think, 100 users. Each of our team got 10 users, and we were literally looking at what they had input and what they say on LinkedIn. And we compared it all and analyzed it. And then, as I mentioned in the beginning, we had this weird drop-off on our company domain stuff, which we couldn't really explain. On the left-hand side, you see the old experience. We were asking, what is your company domain? We even give you an example, and you can just click next. But even with our redesign, we still had this problem. So we were like, there must be something wrong with the question. So we launched one of our exit surveys that I showed you in the beginning just on that step. And we were like, why are you dropping off on this step? What is wrong? And users were telling us, among other things, that they didn't know what a domain was. So we have users that are not very tech-savvy, which didn't even cross our mind that users don't know what a domain is. So we were looking through the answers. They were like, we're looking for words together with a UX writer. And we found that almost all of those users called it website. So we changed the question into what is your company website, included the www. Which seems very familiar for a lot of people. And we included really actionable error messages. So before it would just say, whenever you enter something wrong, it would just say, please enter a valid domain. End of story. And users were saying, what's valid? I don't even know, how can I fix this? I don't know how to move on. So they were just dropping off. Had some really positive results by introducing those actionable error messages and actually just changing the word from domain to website. Such a small thing, such a huge impact. And last but not least, we have this question in sign up where we ask you for the field that you work in. And based on that field that you work in, our onboarding team after us comes in, takes that information and implies what type of onboarding you need. So if you would say, okay, I work in the field marketing, our onboarding team then immediately, after you finish our sign up, our onboarding team would then come in, show you a marketing demo, show you a marketing get started checklist, which we just imply that information. We don't know, just because you work in marketing doesn't actually mean do you really want the marketing onboarding. We didn't know. And again, we here had this pain that, a really large amount of users were again just choosing other. So they got this really, almost improvised onboarding experience, because what is other? We don't know what you want with our software, so the onboarding experience wasn't great. So we changed that into an experience. We were like, why don't we ask users directly what we want from them, which is, which part of the CRM platform do you want to explore first, and what do you want to get started with? Such an easy thing. Actually, as you can see here, we didn't even need to change the answers. They were the same answers, like which field do you work in? We just had to change the question. And huge increase in monetization, really great increase in activation afterwards. And a majority of users that had gotten this variant in the experiment actually did finish the tour that they were given afterwards. So all in all, really small things to change, which have a great impact. When you launch them as an experiment, you can really compare those things. And up next for us, we're working a lot on the personalization. So personalizing for a lot of different things, trying out things. 2020, we will work a lot on accessibility. So how does our flow work with screen readers, for example? What with visually impaired people? Will they have an option to change color? Big topic for us next year. We're working on visuals and animations, and we're working on continuous feedback surveys that give us information. And to sum it up, I think the biggest learning for our team was that it's not always just about, your KPI, the main one. It's not always about conversion rate, but we really could prove that investing in user delight can bring really great impact to your projects. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Anne. So that was a great illustration of what neuroscience can help you to build your products. And I'm a little bit disappointed because I'm a long-time HubSpot user and I don't see these nice interfaces because you're on the growth team. And I think you produce all that for new users who want to acquire and not for your current users. You should think about that as well. So thank you very much for that. So we have some time for questions. Do you have questions for me? There is a question. Great.
Hi, Andy. Very nice presentation, very hands-on. Enjoyed the insights from neuroscience. My question is, it looked like you revamped the whole flow and you had some hypotheses on which things you could put in each screen. But how did you go about, when do you know it's enough user research and now it's time to put it out and test it, right? Or did you test each screen also individually? How did you go about that?
Yeah, so we didn't really test each of the things because we were treating it as this one big experiment because we just wanted to change so many things. So it would have taken forever if we would have done each of those things as an individual experiment. As I said, we did feel at one stage we had a good direction after we saw, okay, we're missing out on user delight. That's a clear direction we're heading into. We were quite sure that we didn't have any major reliability or usability issues because users were able to continue it. So that was, I think, one of our signals that we were okay, at this stage we have all this information. Let's go in and with the first prototype we do a usability test with new users. But as I said, we do these a lot of quick check-ins where we would just grab 20 users. As I said, and we just showed them the faces and they were saying, did you buy those images? So I wouldn't say that there's any point where we definitely say, okay, this is the last research that we've done for this project. If we feel there is the need and we're not quite sure, instead of guessing, we would always just throw in a quick round of research and continue.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
I think we have time for one last question, and you have two. Then you're lucky that you're now at the microphone, so you can.
My name is Felix. Hi. So I have two questions. First one is very quick. First, are you partnering with Headspace actually?
No.
I thought that as well.
Okay, thank you. Second one.
I was actually looking up how to picture user delight, and Headspace came up, so I was inspired. No copyright.
It works. Second question is, you said your leadership is very happy with that 31% increase in monetization, but how do you actually ensure that this is due to your sign-up flow, right? So how do you make sure that no other features being developed at the same time in the platform and HubSpot, maybe for you? And you say, I'm super happy with this, I'm going to upgrade my plan. And then you say, oh, it's due to my sign-up flow, but it's actually not.
Yeah, so we actually work with those users that go through this experience. They are marked as a cohort in Amplitude. And other teams, any team that would follow after us, a user that's enrolled in one of our experiments would never be enrolled in anything else or any other changes. They were completely blocked for, like, let's say our onboarding team makes some changes. And I mean, also, even if accidentally something would happen, because we still split the traffic 50-50, there's still a high chance that it was just equal out because they get the experience. But the normal use case is that those users are marked, and this would be the only change they see.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. So, Anne, thank you for your insights, and applause for Anne Tempelmeier.